You know what that sound is, everybody? That's time for another episode of Iller and Filthier. I'm your host, Greg Eisenhower. My buddy Brian is with me from the STO. This week on episode 9, we're going to talk about Brats, the documentary, talk a little bit about those 80's movies, and then we're going to play a little game, a fan favorite called Saw It on the Internet.
Woo!
Yeah.
Hey, Brian.
So, what are you doing, man?
Well, I sat back and thought about the things we used to do. We had a lot of fun.
You really want to do this with me?
Bro, you know I do.
It's like my Thursday jam now.
You think people, even though we've said it several times, do you think people know that comes from the Melly Vanilli?
There's got to be some people that get it.
I think you have to be a little older.
Yeah.
To be around the time to when Milli Vanilli came out. And then you have to I think you have to kind of understand our sense of humor also, that we were trying to channel that.
Yeah. All of our jingles, we try to channel something. That's the fun part about jingles and our songs.
I'm ready to go. I think this is, I'm ready to go for a fun show. Episode 9. Can you believe it?
Yeah. The 10th one will be free. So like for people that have hung around,
listen to 9 of our episodes. The 10th one is free.
And it's going to be a good one. We don't know what it is yet, but we kind of do. Yeah. We've been able to
kind of plan. We do. Yeah.
This show is
fly by the seat of our pants so much.
Yeah,
we are, but we're not.
But it's been organic, and I think that's what's been super fun about it. Is Brian and I purposely are trying to make it a little organic and fun, and that's why we don't share things with each other sometimes. Like sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But it just seems to make it more fun, and so we were trying to find a way to like organically go topic to topic, and so far it's been working out pretty well. And I think there's ways to connect on these episodes, so it should be cool.
So explain how we got onto today's topic, because this was a text message that you sent to me just a few days ago. I think you were were you out of town or something?
No, we were back, but we caught it. We went to Nashville last weekend, but on like early this week, Monday or Tuesday, I've been seeing it. I wanted to watch it. The Brats documentary. I was like, I want to check that out. I was a big fan of those movies and those guys, and it's just our childhood. I feel, or my youth, I guess, not childhood, but like our youth and growing up, and like, so I was like, we checked it out. Rachel watched it with me. She loved it, and so I sent it to you, and just thought, as I heard people discussing it, on different like outlets, I was like, maybe we should chat about this. Be a fun one to go through.
Did you guys watch it when you went to Nashville?
No, we watched it when we got back.
Oh, so I'm kind of curious, like when it's just you and the wife on these trips, do you keep it strictly business, or is this kind of like the honeymoon when you guys get to leave and go out of town without the kids? Seriously. It's a little of both, but also like being the age we are, like coming back from the bars on Broadway at like midnight, just went right to bed, just conked, like just exhausted. Like, what are we doing up so late? Like, it's just so funny how your mind shift changes. Like, it's so funny. It's kind of sad, but it's funny, and it's something that I recognize. The fact that you guys are on this trip. You're going to Nashville, which is a fantastic city. I love going there. Yeah,
it's a blast.
You're without the kids. You're staying at a hotel. This is for work, right?
Yeah, it was a work trip. So it was the first time Rachel's kind of joined me on a work trip. So it was fun. So
you're telling you're telling the side chick, not this one.
Yeah, I was just like,
this is for the wives.
Yeah. It sucks too, and people, and you can't even look at him in the club, and she's looking at you like, dude, what's wrong with him? Like. Then
and then you're the people that you work with. I think you guys all have to understand. You'd be like, look, bring in some wives with us this time. No inside jokes. Nobody gets in trouble.
Yeah, it was fun though, because my coworkers are great. It was fun. Like there was another couple that came, so a buddy and his wife, and then we brought some friends with us too, and then coworkers. So it was a fun mix of like getting to hang out and so we had a really good time. Nashville's awesome.
Well, I know you had sent me the message if I had seen the documentary Brats, and I had heard about it because I saw the buzz, and I think with targeted advertisement on social media for people that are like us, our age, and I do think that the algorithms are picking up on a lot of the things that you and I talk about on our show, because Iller and Filthier, we've touched on a lot of different things, but it's definitely 80s and kind of, it was metal, and we're talking OJ, and it's just stuff that we kind of grew up with. So I think they were kind of pushing it heavy towards people like us anyways.
Yeah, the algorithms like just pepper me with OJ stuff now. And
and the same. And I saw the thing with Brats, and then I know I had inquired with my spouse, my wife. I said, hey, can we get this in the rotation? Because, it's a constant debate.
Yeah, what are you watching? Yeah.
What are we watching next? And then do we slot it in? Is this one to where we're watching in the living room? Is this the content that we watch in the living room? Or is this the one that before we go to bed in bed?
That's Bridgerton. That's Bridgerton.
Oh, is that Bridgerton for you guys?
No, I'm just kidding. No, she's watching that by herself.
Yeah. I tried that for, I think, one season, and I get it kind of, but I'm like, this is just not really very good. But she passed on it. And she's usually, she's all for the nostalgia also, but I think because of a lot of the critical reviews of it, and we'll get into it tonight, she was like, why don't you do that one on your own? I said, that's fine. I'll do it on my own. And then I think it was last night, Greg, and I know when Greg's like excited about a show coming up, because he's like, what's up? Are you ready to go? I'm hyped up for the show. And I am too. No matter what we're talking about, I think we make it kind of fun. And he's like, what'd you think of the documentary? And I'm like, rule number one of Fight Club is we can't talk about this stuff before the show.
That's right. I love it.
So
it's a good policy to hold on to, because
I was like, just save it for the show unless you really, really want to know.
Sometimes it's more of a casual me, just like, are you like, yeah, man, it was good, or like, like don't need all the details, but just like just see what
that's the tough thing that I'm maneuvering about, because as much as I would love to, like, if we didn't have a show, I'd be like, oh, and just kind of just texting you about it.
Yeah. No, I like it.
But then I'm like, if we go through this again, then we have to kind of recreate the the organic conversation of it. And I'm like, okay, I get this. Has to be the show producer Brian has to step in and make sure that we save it for the show. Well,
that's a good idea.
I've got the trailer. Do you want to see the trailer?
Yeah, let's check it
to get everybody just kind of in the mood for this Andrew McCarthy. He's the one that produced and directed it. So let's go ahead and check it out.
If you were coming of age in the 1980s, the Brat Pack was near the center of your cultural awareness. But for those of us experiencing it from the inside, the Brat Pack was something very different. On June 10, 1985, New York Magazine published Hollywood's Brat Pack. I just remember seeing that cover and thinking, oh. From then on, my career and the career of everyone who was involved was branded to the Brat Pack.
I'm really sorry that article had to come out.
I've never talked to anybody about what that was like. So I thought it might be interesting to try and contact everyone who was in the Brat Pack. Hey, Emilio Estevez. This is Andrew McCarthy calling you. Hey, Allie. Hey, Demi. Hey, Molly. Let's call Rob. Hello. Judd? Me? You around? You were not interested in talking about the Brat Pack for years.
I turned everything down.
How come you're talking to me?
Because you called me. It was time that we clear the air on a couple of things.
I love your stuff, Bob. Hey, thank you. I hated the Brat Pack for decades. What a disaster. If you could have the Brat Pack name not exist, would you?
It really irritated me. They said, what's more important to you, the movie or your life? And I said,
the movie!
Andrew.
Have you talked to the others? The others, like, again, it feels like a cult or something.
Yeah.
Why did we take it as an offense?
Well,
As
'cause
opposed to
you're
like
called a brat.
because we were young.
We were
If we're-
afraid we were brats, you know? Are you in the Brat Pack?
I'm Brat Pack adjacent.
That's what I was saying.
I am not in the Brat Pack.
Crush on you back in the day?
You did not, Andrew. No, you did not.
Being in the Brat Pack not only changed all of our lives, it changed what entertainment is. I mean, I'm not going to say we were the Beatles or anything.
Well, we didn't fill Shea Stadium. There were moments.
We could have. 1985? I think we could have.
So what are you filming?
Oh, we're just doing this documentary.
What's it about?
Ancient history.
All right. So, I mean, the nostalgia part of it for me, when Greg proposed we do this for the show, I was like, yeah, let's do it, because it reminds me of a time in the 80s to where I'm coming of age and I'm remembering all of those movies, and I was like, that would be a lot of fun. But I'm curious, Greg, when I think about the Brat Pack and going back to that time period and all these movies, for me, and what brings chills to me, like I got goosebumps. Hey, Jeff's here.
What's up, Jeff?
What gives me chills is the soundtrack, is the music to all of these movies that make me go back to that time to remember like really good times.
Yeah. Yeah. The music is, and I don't know if that's what it seems like these movies was a jumping off point of that. And I don't know if it was just, we were old enough to draw that connection, or the first time you're feeling like emotions, or like, I like the relationships, the music, like all of that. And
right.
It feels like that's where it started. Like Footloose was probably the first one that jumped out at me like that. And that they showed that in the doc. Footloose was in when they were talking about movies kind of directed towards that age group. So one of the things I loved they talked about in the documentary was that these were the first kind of movies directed towards kids, and they put kids to star in. And I was like, oh, it was just interesting to hear. I don't know if you caught that.
No, yeah, I caught that. I think they said specifically like kids 18 to 22 or something. Yeah. That these are stories about them, by them. It was the golden age, I think, of where a lot of the entertainment was really geared towards the older teens.
Yeah.
And that basically, I mean, I was born in 1975. So mid 80s, I was just coming around to where I'm noticing girls and the crushes and stuff like that. And it's kind of weird because I look back on all of these movies that, let's just say, are part of this collection of what the Brat Pack is kind of representative. And there's certain ones to where I feel like I can see myself in certain characters.
Right.
And then there's other times, and ironically enough, specifically to the Brat Pack and like the Breakfast Club, or the Breakfast Club, right?
Yep.
I don't see myself in any of the characters. So I don't have a real direct connection with all of those movies. Yeah. But I do with the music.
Yeah. Yeah, for me it was both. I remember my group of friends, like when St. Elmo's Fire came out, it was like that was the first one that kind of dabbled into relationships a little bit. Like that was a little bit older feeling post college vibe movie, whereas Breakfast Club was, targeted to feel like high school. And I think it was cool because you could see yourself in a little bit. Like I think I just identified with the fact that there was just a type of person. Like they tried to hit the cliche, like stereotypical, like high school kids, And then in St. Elmo's Fire, that one was more like we all would talk about which person we were. Like there was this, like the way they handled their relationships or whatever. And it was just, I just remember that always like being like, oh, which person am I in the show,
And do you remember off the top of your head any of the storylines or characters or the the stereotypical character that they were setting up? Like, who did you identify with? Because I have a hard time in trying to figure that out myself.
Yeah.
The only one I can even think of off the top of my head, you remember Can't Buy Me Love?
Yeah. Of course.
I kind of relate to him a little bit, but not really.
Yeah. No, I think it wasn't so much a relation to some of those, but like in St. Elmo's Fire, like I loved Kirby, the character that Emilio Estevez played, because he went like crazy for this girl and like drove up to this like cabin to try to meet her, and she was with somebody else. And I was like, I always did dumb stuff like that. I'd be the guy that would be like, oh, she's amazing, I'm gonna chase after her. But yeah, just the music and I think you see a little bit of yourself in all those characters in some way, like thinking about Breakfast Club specifically. Like, I mean, I was kind of a jock, but not really, I wasn't like the stoner, burnout guy,
Right.
like Judd Nelson, and I wasn't the nerd per se. It's like, but you could see yourself in like all of them a little bit.
Right.
And same with the girl characters too, like it's like you knew people like that or
Right.
something.
Oh, yeah. That's a good way to put it.
I could see people from my school in those characters or whatever.
Well, the whole idea behind the documentary that I took from it, and this was Andrew McCarthy, this was his kind of pet project, kind of came about from an article that they referenced from New York Magazine.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, and I'm glad that they did, and it was kind of an awkward moment in the documentary where the article itself, and I actually read through it. Did you get a chance to read through the article?
No, I should. Yeah. Cause this threw me off when it got to this point.
So
because,
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the author was David Blum.
Okay.
And apparently the article was not very favorable. And it actually was the first thing to kind of cast a negative light over the Brat Pack. And it's what I think a lot of them point to as the genesis of this negativity of this collective name of the Brat Pack. It wasn't as cool as where it was initially taken from, the Rat Pack from back with Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr., where, those guys just had it all. And this was an article. It was almost kind of like a hit piece I took from it.
Yeah.
And he was able to, Andrew McCarthy, for the documentary, towards the end of it, bring this author or the person who wrote it.
That was at the end, right?
That was towards the end.
Down. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
And he kind of, and I felt a little tense listening to it because, Andrew McCarthy obviously holds there's a lot of therapy, I think, that he had to go through because of this name that they tried to break out of, this Brat Pack. And I think that's also why Molly Ringwald didn't want to do this this documentary. And they
Same with what's his name?
Judd Nelson.
Judd, but then also the Michael Anthony Hall.
Oh yeah, Michael Anthony Hall.
Yeah.
So being part of the Brat Pack wasn't a thing that any of them wanted to be a part of, and especially after this article had come out. And they hold a lot of resentment towards the guy who wrote it. And Andrew McCarthy straight out, he said, "Do you have any regrets on what you did?"
Yeah.
And the guy was like, I mean, not really. He said he understood why they were upset about it. But he kind of just said it's one of those things to where when you're a movie star or you're famous, this is part of the stuff you have to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah, this caught me by surprise because I had never thought of it as negative. I always thought it was a cool nickname. And so to hear how they all hated it, I really was taken back by that. Like in my mind, I never viewed it as a negative thing. I was like, oh, the Brat Pack. It's like, I thought it was just a funny name for these guys, these guys as they were in movies together. But to hear how they speak about it, and how it kind of maybe even to a degree hurt their career a little bit.
Yeah.
Or it was almost the way, like, I feel like how maybe boy bands were viewed at one point, you know, how they're talented people. They don't
Right.
not work hard. They're very talented, but there was like the stigma. And I think that's what they kind of got into, was like, they wanted to be away from each other purposely. They didn't want to like be in a movie with another person for that reason. And that they were going to be like, oh, it's another Brat.
I think when he talked to Rob Lowe said that there was several movies that he was offered. He says, I'm not doing it if Andrew McCarthy's doing it, because I don't want to be associated with this group.
Right.
And I think part of it was this article kind of painted them as this superficial outcast group of just people that don't take acting seriously.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the actors and actresses kind of resented that because they found it hard to break out of that mold.
Right. It sounded like they got painted into that unfairly. I mean, you know, he mentioned Andrew had gone to New York, school. He'd worked hard and gone to school and everything. I mean, yeah. So these guys were hardworking actors, and to get that label put on them kind of unfairly. Yeah. I was surprised at that, to how much it haunts them, I guess.
It affected some of them, not all of them. Obviously, Rob Lowe was fine. Amelia Estevez is fine.
Yeah.
Demi Moore, she was fine, but they all took it as kind of negative. And here's the interesting thing. So you just said that you, up until watching the documentary, you took it as kind of a positive thing. Like, looking back nostalgia wise, Brat Pack was kind of cool. I was on the other side of it, to where when you say Brat Pack, the faces that pop up for me are the ones that are in Breakfast Club. That's the Brat Pack to me.
Yep. And
I look back on those actors and actresses within the Brat Pack, and I do see them as, I'm going to say, because I don't have a better way of saying it, but as almost failures, that they didn't reach their full potential for whatever reason, whether they weren't good enough, or maybe they were kind of typecast a certain way and they couldn't break that mold.
Yeah.
But I took it as not necessarily a positive thing either. And what was your overall feeling of watching the documentary?
It wasn't as, because it seemed like a little bit of a therapy session. Like, it wasn't as maybe enjoyable as I thought it might be, only because I thought, I think they did. They had a lot of fun for sure. I mean, they were A-listers, but
Jeff makes a great point. He's saying they made a lot of money, so get over it. Which
it was whiny.
That's how I lean.
Yeah. It was a little whiny, and you could just, like you said, you could tell he was just trying to get over some things and wanted to reach out to other people. But so that, I was hoping it was a little more like celebratory of like a little trip down memory lane kind of vibe.
Right.
And to hear that they're like, not maybe the best of friends, and like, they haven't been hanging out together all these, but that makes sense. I mean, it kind of does. Like, if they were all bugged by that stigma.
I thought the documentary, as I was watching it, and I was hoping for a more nostalgia type thing, and I took it as I'm watching more on the cringy side of it, with a little bit of the therapy part of it.
Yeah.
And behind the scenes of their relationships. Because I think a lot of us are kind of curious, okay, were they all friends? And apparently they really weren't, because they wanted to be.
Yeah. But not because of any one action or, it seemed like, it was more just to stay away from each other.
From that group.
Yeah. From that label. And I mean, it was well done and shot and cool in that sense. It just wasn't exactly what I thought, as far as like, I was like, oh, this is like, these guys have got like, and clearly like he's got maybe more issues than some of the rest of them, but like.
Well, he obviously does. I think Molly Ringwald does, she didn't want anything to do with this.
Yeah.
Judd Nelson didn't do it either.
Well, I think he called him at the end, right? Like,
or we think he did.
Yeah.
And that's the part, there were so many things, though, just from a documentary point of view. Not that I'm a documentary professional or anything. I like watching my fair share of documentaries.
Yeah.
And I recognize some of the artistic styling of how he was trying to produce this.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was a very good documentary. And I thought it was cringy and kind of sad. Almost to the point to where I think if Demi Moore or Rob Lowe saw this eventually, they would probably regret being part of it.
Yeah.
And I think a great synopsis of this documentary for me, how cringy and just how lost Andrew McCarthy felt. If you notice, whenever he was going somewhere to go meet somebody, he was always lost. He couldn't find them. He's like in his car and he drives past the wrong street.
Good point. Yeah.
And he's never, and I'm just like, oh my, this guy, he's got some, there's other issues going on. And I just felt sorry for him.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's what he intended.
Probably not. And I liked his I thought Rob and Demi, especially Rob, brought such a positive light to it too. They seem to be like, dude, like it is what it is. Like, they seem to have a little more positive, like, I thought Rob just seemed like his character on Parks and Rec. He just seemed like he's got a good life. He's happy.
Don't you think that comes with being the more successful of the two?
Probably. Yeah.
That he felt like, I think he senses sitting across from Andrew McCarthy and knowing the stigma attached to this Brat Pack thing. I think he was trying, because I agree with you. I took Rob and Demi as being a little more upbeat and trying to lift people up from this. But then also I'm like, they're obviously the more successful of that group.
They seem like the elders to a degree. Like, but Andrew McCarthy was in just some killer movies though. He had a run that was just awesome. I mean, between Mannequin and Weekend at Bernie's, I mean, just some funny and all the like. There was the ones he was in with like Robert Downey Jr. There was a couple of those. I can't think of the names, but some of those, they're a little more serious, but there's some good movies like during that era that he was in.
And I think maybe what Andrew McCarthy and maybe a couple of the other ones wanted more of the bigger roles to where it's a little more dramatic or serious of roles, and they just couldn't get to them.
It's hard.
Remember a lot of their movies, to be honest with you. But I do just, when you mention Brat Pack, it just takes me back to a certain time, and overall it's a positive thing for me. But if we were to kind of drill down into what does the specifically Brat Pack mean to me, I take it kind of as a negative. And it was interesting for me to hear that it's hard to determine, okay, well, who was in the Brat Pack?
Yeah. There's a lot of, like you said, there's the core, and then there's the adjacent ones. Like somebody made that reference. I'm a Brat Pack adjacent, because there's definitely like a little spillover of people. I was like, oh, I forgot it. Like that Timothy guy, I forgot his name. He's one that's like, oh, I forgot about him. But yeah, he kind of was in that.
They talked about realm. Tom Cruise. Was Tom Cruise?
Yeah.
Part of the Brat Pack.
He kind of yes and no, because the Outsiders. I mean, Outsiders had all those guys. Like, it's
hard to kind of put in there. So whenever I think about that, and if I were to say, well, which actors were part of the Brat Pack, for me, it's the Breakfast Club group. But yeah, when
St. Elmo's Fire, because
it's St. Elmo's Fire.
It's those two kind of together, right?
So you start then you're kind of debating, okay, well, who's part of it? And then it was funny because a lot of them that were kind of adjacent or just right outside of that main group that we all think about, they like, specifically were on camera saying, I don't want to be known for that, or don't put me in that group.
Yeah. And I forgot about John Cryer. I completely forgot that he was in, because I'm not super familiar with is he 16 Candles or Pretty in Pink? He's Pretty in Pink, right?
Those two movies run together for me.
Yeah, same. And because Anthony Michael Hall was in 16 Candles, John Cryer was in Pretty in Pink, but so was Andrew McCarthy. So that's where, like, I get, but I had forgot about John Cryer even being kind of a part of that scene.
Yeah, and he was specific. Like, I am not I am not Brat Pack.
Yeah.
And it's just, it made me feel bad. And I'm not sure that was his intent on doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's funny too, because when I think of his characters, he plays kind of the same character in all the movies I can think of that he's in.
He's kind of the Vince Vaughn character, where Vince Vaughn is always Vince Vaughn.
He's this guy, yeah, and he, you don't ever hear him with an accent or like,
Is he supposed to be kind of the everyday guy that most of us are supposed to?
Yeah,
because Rob Lowe's more of the bad boy, pretty guy.
Yeah, handsome.
Yeah,
yeah. I think Andrew McCarthy's always been in that everyman kind of role, the like Jason Segel, woe is me kind of guy.
Yeah,
get my heart broken, but he's nice. He's like your buddy,
and he may end up with the girl at the end.
Yeah.
Once she kind of realizes the bad boys, aren't good for you or something.
I mean, and he did molest a mannequin in the movie The Mannequin. So
I'm trying to remember The Mannequin.
No, it's funny. So that used to be one of my favorite movies, and Rachel and I watched it not long ago. And I'm like, I looked at her, I'm like, this is weird. It doesn't hold up. If you really think about it, he's having an affair with a mannequin. Like, it's a great movie though. It's super funny.
Do you find most of the movies from the 80s that we fondly look back on, do they hold up for you now?
I think most of them do. I'm sure some of them are pretty darn cheesy, but the ones that rise to the top, I think those are still good for a reason. Like, I think you could watch Breakfast Club. I could still watch that and have feelings. And like, I think they did such a good job. I mean, they were really good actors. I mean, that's why I said St. Elmo's Fire, all those movies have so much emotion and stuff like that real people are going through.
They hold up for you. Do you think that they would hold up with your own teenagers?
That's a good question.
Like, do you know, has Kenley or your son, have they sat down for a family movie night? Have you guys watched some of these old 80s?
We haven't watched anything funny. We watched The Shining, and I think they thought that was stupid because they just want somebody to jump out. Like, all the scary movies now are just jump scares. But
I don't think my kids would enjoy these.
One of our fans is ripping us online. Rachel 319, whoever. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
my wife said Andrew McCarthy was the rich popular kid in Pretty in Pink. She said, "No, you're shit." So I guess he played the rich popular kid in that. Well, he still looked like the same guy. Rachel. No, I don't know. Kenley's getting to that point where she'd probably get into like stuff like she's watching Glee now and some of those things. She hasn't gone back to these, but I think they kind of hold up. But I don't know. The music is probably what really drives it, to a degree. It was just that soundtrack of like that time.
Well, and that's the cool thing. They talked about it with who's the director for like 16 Candles.
Yeah, I know you're talking about. It wasn't Hughes, was it?
Was it John Hughes? Is that who it is?
He a bunch of those. I don't know if that one was his.
But they talked about those type of movies in the 80s. The key thing was attaching that one song. Yeah. That when you hear it, that's the movie, that's the song, and it encapsulates everything.
It still hits me to this day.
That's exactly what it is. Like when we watched the promotional here for Brats.
Yeah.
And they played Don't You Forget About Me and all the other songs. I get chills because it takes me back, and they are right. You have that one anthem of a song that's attached to that.
That was the first movie that I just watched over and over and over again with friends. That was the first kind of experience of like just on repeat, the quotable lines, just repeating that started my repeating of movies, lines and stuff started with that.
Jeff's trying to get listener Rachel all worked up.
No, don't get her started, Jeff. Yeah, it's but that's stay tuned if you like chatting about soundtracks is all I have to say. A little foreshadowing.
Yeah, that would be a fun one.
Yeah.
One other thing that I took from the documentary, and this is from my photography side, because for those of you guys that don't know, my business that I have. I'm a photographer, videographer, and I do some kind of documentary style things. I think there's a few gigs that I've done in the last few months that I would say are within where I'm interviewing certain people. And one of the styles that I recognize that he was trying to do was where the video guys break that fourth wall, or is it the fourth wall that you break to where you see them actually in the shot?
Oh yeah, you can see the guys with camera and stuff.
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
something wasn't right in the way he was trying to do that. Like it was more of a distraction for me. And I compare that to, if you've seen McCartney 3-2-1.
Yeah.
To where when you see the guys with the cameras and the tracks that the cameras are on, and those actually make it into the shot.
Yeah.
That's not distracting. And I can see the style that he's trying to do.
That's
but on
funny.
this one here, it was kind of weird. And I don't know if this was kind of like,
well, he filmed some of it from his phone, didn't he? Or he
Yeah.
had, like, because I think there was one scene. She was like, "Why do you have your phone on me?"
was that Allie?
Maybe, yeah. She's cool. She seemed cool.
She was on the couch or something.
Yeah.
And then he's like putting his cell phone down. She's like, are you recording me or what? And he's like, yeah, I'm just getting a second angle.
Yeah.
So
How many times have you done that with your phone?
I keep my tripod by the bed, actually.
Oh yeah, yeah, of course.
Which I actually do keep my tripod in the bedroom a lot of times, just because I'm always working with it, and Amy wants me to get it out of the living room when people come over.
Yeah.
And so I end up putting it in the bedroom, and her sister came over one time, and I think she used our bathroom or something, came out and said, why is the tripod in your bedroom?
Don't worry about it.
You asked too many questions.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't worry. Don't open doors.
So anything else that you took from the documentary?
No, I don't. Not necessarily. We hit on all the main things. Yeah, it was fun to watch. It was entertaining. But yeah, it's just cool to I like the nostalgic pieces of it.
It was also interesting to know that the article that all of this was based off of, like the main guy that was the center for the Brat Pack was Emilio Estevez. Like that was what the article was supposed to be about him, and then they included a few more of them as that group, but he was like the main one, and he's obviously been very successful.
Yeah, it's like at the same time, I can't think of anything super recent he's done. None of them really. I mean, Rob's probably the only one just from shows, his success on some of the TV shows he on, which were great, I thought. But
yeah, I'd say between, who do you think the most successful of that group turned out to be? Is it Rob or Demi?
I'd probably say Demi and then Rob. They're probably pretty close because I mean, Judd didn't do very much, I feel like.
Yeah.
Ali,
Emilio did fine, so those three for sure.
Yep, he did a lot of stuff. But
Ali Sheedy, no.
Yeah, she didn't, but yeah, and Molly Ringwald didn't do much at all after that. I think she got into like the mom life and stuff. I thought I saw something where maybe she's, kind of just got away from that altogether.
Yeah, I see on IMDb, it said Andrew McCarthy reached out to Judd Nelson to join the Brat Pack reunion, but Nelson politely declined. So that's how I kind of took it at the end, to where I thought he was going to pull out after the credits rolled, that Judd Nelson would come out or Molly would come out and we would see them like briefly. And just with the tone of everything, I almost think that he faked that.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be. Yeah, because that'd be kind of funny if that was the case.
All right, well, I think we did pretty good breaking that one down. Brats, Andrew McCarthy's documentary. And I think, are you ready to go into I saw it on the internet?
Yeah.
You ready for that?
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a few episodes since we saw it on the internet. I'm glad
Yeah.
we're bringing it back.
Yeah, this is going to be let me share my screen here. There we go. So it's going to be a little mix of like a little fun, like game kind of stuff, kind of thing with you. But since I did see these things on the internet, so I just wanted to, I want to start with this picture here.
It's so disturbing. I don't know why.
What do you think?
I see that, and it's like a creepy ad that comes up on Facebook that, you know, they used to keep these kids locked up, you know, back in the 70s. It just looks creepy.
You have three choices. Is this A, Purge 6, the prequel? So from the movie Purge, the Purge series, are you familiar with that?
No, tell me.
Okay. Well, so Purge is it's like a horror series.
Okay.
Essentially,
I've seen a lot of horror stuff, but not horror stuff.
Horror, yeah. This is more horror, not the horror stuff that you like.
Okay.
The short films you like. No, the Purge is essentially a series about where every so often the society takes off where anything goes for like a weekend.
Yeah.
And they think that gets everybody's badness out of them, so you can kill, rape, murder, steal. You just get it out of the way.
Oh, okay.
And then life comes back to normal. But so there's a lot of mask wearing and stuff. So this is this Purge 6 coming out? It's called the prequel.
Okay.
Is this from that, or is this a retro 80s Halloween classroom photo, or is this album cover for Apocalyptica 7th Symphony, which is a really cool metal band?
I think it's going to be one of the last two that you mentioned. So I could see this. I probably have a photo very similar to this, but I'm going to go with it's one of the metal soundtrack.
It's actually just a picture of the 80s Halloween classroom.
Oh, okay,
But
okay.
I love how disturbing it is. Like, do you remember when we all wore those plastic masks?
I am pretty sure. Okay, so there's a Darth Vader. I know I've worn that.
Yep.
Superman, I may have.
Yeah, Gene Simmons is back there. And who's the guy with stars and stripes? Is that
Captain America or something?
Maybe.
Or who's the guy that does the motorcycle?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Evil Knievel.
Evil Knievel, that's probably him.
Yeah.
Dracula, I see there.
It's great though. All right.
That reminds me of like one Halloween I wanted to go as a Cobra soldier, you know, from G.I. Joe.
Yeah, yeah.
And we were just kind of poor and everything. And so my mom's like, I'll bring some stuff home from the hospital and then you can make your own Cobra outfit. So she brought home like a mask from like a surgical mask and everything. And I remember in like blue scrubs. And I remember I looked at myself in the mirror. I was like, I can't go to school like this. I was so depressed. I tried doing it, but
that's funny.
Awful.
All right, Brian. So these two are a little fun. I wanted to have with you. It's a little bit. We're going to get back to like solid on the internet a little bit. I had a couple slides I wanted to show you because I think it's funny. Some of this has to do with just growing up, and the vinyl and plastic, dude. You're right.
Sticking your tongue through that little hole in your mouth, you know.
So some of this has to do with we're getting older and trying to recognize stuff. We've talked about how like when I don't recognize the guests on SNL, that I know I'm about done. It's time to check out.
Right.
All right. So this on the Billboard Top 100, 2 of these artists are on there, and one is not. And I want you to figure out which one's not. So Shabuzi, a bar song, Sexy Red, Get It Sexy, or Willie C, Tropical King. Which is the imposter?
A total guess. I'm going to say Willie C.
Why is that?
It's the least ridiculous of the other 3.
You did good. Good job.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So Shabuzi is like my new favorite kind of fun listen I've listened to lately. Shabuzi is like he's an African-American, like Nashville rapper / he's skinny jeans rapper, country guy. But I just love the name Shabuzi. And he's got do you remember the song, Everybody in the Club Get Tipsy?
Yeah.
It's a play on that. So instead of the club, it's a bar, and he's singing about Nashville bars, but he does the 3 to the 4, like the whole thing, like Tipsy. Sexy Red, I have no clue who that is, but I saw them on the chart. I was like, oh, okay. Willie C is actually a my play on Billy Ocean, Caribbean Queen. And the funny thing was, I was doing this, that was actually playing like on a commercial, and I'm like, Willie C, Tropical King. That's perfect.
Oh, that's great. That is perfect. That might be a character you have to develop for
Willie
our
C.
show. Yeah,
Willie C. We'll have to have Willie C on. All right.
It was Willie C or Billy Ocean that was going to get the record deal, and Billy Ocean won.
Billy Ocean won. He's like, because he had to get into my colon.
Right.
Go back a couple episodes, you'll see that. All right, NFL draft this year. It's a little similar to what we just did. 2 of these players were actually drafted in the NFL. Actually, yeah, 2 of them are not drafted. One's real. So you've got one real one here. So we've got Chop Robinson, Ty Royal, Smoochie Wallace, and Ozamataz Bunkshake. And one of these actually got drafted this year in the NFL draft.
It's like a Key and Peele sketch or something. And I mean, when I used to play fantasy football, I would know this for sure.
Tyrone Smoochie Wallace, Osmataz Bunkshake, and Chop Robinson.
I have no idea. I'll say that there's one real one.
Yes.
I'm going to say Chop Robinson.
Damn it. You're 2 for 2. Yeah. Yeah, Chop Robinson. I was struggling with where to put him in orders. I was moving around. But yeah, Chop Robinson was drafted. I think he's from Penn State. I just had to I had to find a funny name in the first round. But yeah, one of my favorite skits of all time. I absolutely love Key and Peele. But yeah, Ty Royal, Smoochie Wallace, and Ozamataz Bunkshake
Do you remember,
are from their characters they did.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you remember that sketch, then remember SNL did something similar, and I was like, how do they not know Key and Peele did this already?
It was great. Those 2 introduced it, because I always used to tease. I would make Rachel, as much as she watches football with me, like I go watch when they do. You can almost guarantee you can tell like where the player's from, and they just hit on it so well when they do these, and they just get into these crazy names. So it just cracks me up. All right, let's jump up out of here. You did good, buddy. You're killing on this. I got to get more creative with my names. So we're going to get back into a little bit of saw it on the internet. So I saw this the other day. I've seen a bunch of these lately, and they're just they're blowing me away. Let me see this one. I've been seeing a lot of this lately. So just take that in for a minute.
These I see these all the time on Instagram and TikTok pop up, and I get so pissed at it because I fall for it every single time. And I'm like, I think we should put together one for Iller and Filthier and just throw it out there just to see what people do. Yeah,
it's but when when I see these, it just blows my mind. Like I saw one not too long ago that said, like, if Back to the Future was made today, they would go back in time to 1994. I mean, if you think about that movie and how far the 50s felt, like when they went back, and like it was like another world, right? And so it's just funny to think that if you traveled back. So when I think about 2024 and 1981 and 1938, all right.
Does the math work out on this one?
I thought it did.
That's the like I am terrible at math, and this is what these slides do. So the original meme or whatever for this is something like this, to where they say this 2024 is the same as when the Beatles came out for our parents or something when we grew up or whatever. Well, what they do now on TikTok and Instagram are like 2024 is as far away from the year 2000 as when the Declaration of Independence was signed. And so they have it on there, and you start looking at it and you're like, wait a minute, the math's nowhere near that. But it has like 150,000 views. And so people just do the most ridiculous things, and nobody calls them out because, you know what I'm saying? We're not doing the math.
1990. Let's see, 2024 minus the 1981. Yeah.
See, this just doesn't look right. But it probably is. I
43.
just don't know the math. So I'm like,
Yeah,
24.
they're both 43 years. Yeah, they're both 43 years.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah, so it just caught me like it's a funny one when you see it, because when you think of 1938, I mean, that's like it's freaking Titanic time, you know, like 20 years after, you know, so I started thinking about this. Okay. In 1938, 1981, and 2024, I went and looked at the #1 song of the year that year. These are lyrics from said songs from each of those years, and I need you to figure out which one's which. So these are 3 separate songs tied to these years, and just like a little verse, if you will.
So
have, like,
it's
Jeopardy
1938, 1981, and 2024. And then
Yes.
Greg, so there's
These are
3 different paragraphs, and we got to say which one came from 1938, which one came
Yes.
from 1981 or 2024.
This is a part of the #1 song of that, like the #1 song that spent the most time at #1 in that year.
All right.
I didn't even know if 1938 had a #1 song.
And just because I am so kind of anti-music that's out currently, for no reason other than I'm just an old grumpy guy, the dumbest paragraph is going to be 2024, and that would be I dropped it. Yes, on the way I dropped it. Do I have it?
You do not.
Oh.
How do you want to do this? Do you want me to, or do you want to try to keep going?
Yeah, just tell me which one I dropped it, what year it's from.
That is from A Tisket a Tasket by Ella Fitzgerald in 1938.
Is that the actual I dropped it?
Yeah, it's part of A Tisket a Tasket. She performed it, recorded it. I think it might have
on the way I dropped it. I guess I never really learned the entire thing.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
That's funny I love that you picked that one.
All right. So the other 2, why'd you throw them stones if you had a wild hair of your own? Or 2, living in your big glass house with a view. That sounds a little melodramatic, so I'm going to go 2024 on that one.
That is correct. That is from Post Malone and Morgan Wallen, currently #1 Billboard charts, on a song called I Had Some Help.
And then the other one, now that you're saying
it's so 80s.
That's 80s there. 1981. She'll expose you when she snows you.
Do you know what it is? She's ferocious and she knows just what it takes to make a
Who sings that?
pro blood. Kim Carnes.
That's right.
And she has what kind of eyes?
Betty Davis eyes.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. That was a hard one because I had to she says Betty Davis eyes a lot. So I was like,
yeah, that would kind of.
All right. So then we've got slang now. Thought it'd be fun to look at some slang.
All right.
So 1938, 1981, 2024. This is popular slang from those years. This one should be easier, I would think.
All right.
But maybe
so
not. Since you're so hip.
81 and 2024. It's either bussin', bumpin' gums, or tubular. So I'm going to go tubular for 1981.
You are correct, sir.
Bussin' for 2024 and bumpin' gums for 1938.
That is correct. Yeah, bussin's popular right now. That's 2024. Totally tubular. That was a tougher one, or as far as like trying to find something that jumped out. But I thought bumping gums was kind of funny.
There's something sexual about bumping gums, right? Nowadays?
There could be. I mean, we can make anything sexual.
Yeah, but there's what's it when you
bumping uglies?
I don't think so. There's something. It's the when you got the scissors going.
I don't know what.
Isn't that bumping?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Where's listener Rachel? She might know.
Rachel, help us out.
It's bumping something.
Phone a friend. Bumping bunnies.
No, I thought that's what that was, but maybe not.
So that was let me pull that.
Geez.
What happened? There you go.
So I have one. Well, I didn't do a slide for this one, but just some fun. Like I thought this was fun to talk about. I was looking at inventions in those times. So again, so 1938, the ballpoint pen, the strobe light, and freeze-dried coffee all were invented in 1938. So it's kind of funny as you go through like these. You can see what was, at that. Those are like, just the strobe light. That's funny that was invented in 1938.
Yeah, no kidding.
Can you imagine some dude in the 40s just like, check this out?
Right. And some guy that's a pervert and he's just doing the helicopter with his thing with the strobe light going.
Exactly.
He's like, Milton, look at this.
Look at this. Check it out. Hey, come over here, sir. Check out this strobe light. 1981. Big year. Donkey Kong, the game, was invented.
Yeah.
The PC, IBM came out with the PC, and Osborne 1, which was the first portable computer. So kind of like the first laptop, as you can imagine. It was like this big and probably weighed like 1,000 pounds, but very much a computing year. In 1981, a ton of like kind of computing stuff was kind of making its way out. Rachel says there's not anything even dirty on Urban Dictionary about that. Thanks, caller Rachel.
There's something when two girls and they've got the scissors going thing that's bumping something.
The only thing I've ever heard is bumping uglies.
Uglies?
But that's like a slang for like getting it on, like two people.
What's ugly?
I don't know. Bumping uglies. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with this. When we get off the show, I'm going on all my sites looking up all the key words.
So after all these cool inventions that kind of helped us move forward in the world, in 2024, we have a need to pee predictor, which is exactly what it sounds like. So it lets you know that you have to pee.
Right.
Which, I mean, I always have to pee. So, I mean, I don't know how you don't know. A walking assist robot. It's like this thing you strap on your legs and it actually like helps your legs. It's like a whole device thing that you get in and it like kind of helps you walk.
Like an exoskeleton?
It's kind of like a lower body thing,
right?
But it's more to just kind of take the pressure off and help, I suppose if you have issues or maybe it takes pain out of the way. And then a desk bike, so like a bike that you sit at your desk that will charge your phone. That just seems like a lot of work.
I've seen variations of that.
And then something called a sex swing. I don't know what that is.
I've got one upstairs. Actually, I do have a friend that has that.
That's awesome. Well, I thanks for letting me play the little 1981, 1938, 2024 with you. And we were talking about the 80s, so the masks kind of had me going when I saw that meme. I was like, I want to talk to Brian about this and just laugh about how long ago some of these things seem.
It's fun to think about, and then it's depressing, and then I won't be able to sleep tonight because I'm like, oh, jeez. One of us could just wake up or not wake up tomorrow, and people are like, well, I mean, they are that age.
They were old, see? They're flapping their things with strobe lights.
All right. Well, another great episode. Episode 9. The next one, episode 10.
It's free.
They're just rolling. And just so that you guys know, because I don't think anybody has downloaded our podcast. We're out there on all the podcast platforms. If you kind of like to take us to work when you're driving in the subway, doing whatever, you can find Iller and Filthier on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Let us know if you're out there. Follow us. Give us a like. What else can I beg for?
Yeah, like boob shots.
Boob shots, send them to both of us. Where's that listener, Rachel? Send us something tonight. All right, guys, we'll see you next week. Later.